Welcome back to Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and today we have a special guest today, a true trailblazer in the world of healing. Her name is Inna Segal. She is a best-selling author of The Secret Language of Your Body, a global phenomenon, translated into 26 different languages. She is something that you really are going to learn from. She's been co-signed, supported by doctors and healers, and yeah, we're just going to get right into her amazing story. When it comes to her being raised in Australia and shaped by pain and loss and resilience, she has a story that is going to probably not just inspire you, but encourage you to turn the page. So first and foremost, landing the plane, get to our guest today. I want to say to you, Anna, thank you for your time. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
I appreciate you being here. So when you think about breakthrough and the opportunity, like I said, to turn the page, that usually comes from pain points and some point of life, break it down. You help millions with your story, but also through your journey, you have started something I can call a movement, if you will, with your resources. Kind of give us the back end story of your life.
So I was born in Eastern Europe, and from when I was really young, I was having digestive issues. Just ended up in the hospital, no clear reason, no medical reason, but couldn't eat food properly for many years without just blowing up and my body just going into kind of a crazy state. And then I had, from about the age of 10, I started getting psoriasis all over my skin. And then from about 14, 15, I started getting really bad back pain. All of that culminated in high level of anxiety because nothing was helping. I was going to see medical professionals for a really long time. And then around the age of 18, I started seeing alternative professionals. And the issue was how I was showing up, because that's how I was taught, right? To show up to anybody's office going, you know everything, you're the one who can fix me, I don't know anything, here you go, fix me. And I had this moment, like you said, where I showed up at this chiropractor's office. I was in agony, my back was twisted and inflamed, and I'd been seeing him for about a year, and he just looked at me. He actually came out of his office and he looked at me and he said, your body's stuck. And I said, yeah, I know that part, how are you going to help me? And he was silent for a moment, and then he said, your body wants to be stuck. There's nothing I can do, go home. I was very enraged by this, but it was this, like a light bulb went on where I went, why doesn't my body want to be stuck? What is going on inside of me where I'm refusing to let go? And I had gone through a lot of traumas in my life, including just before that, I had lost a child. I got pregnant very young, and I didn't think it would happen. And so I was in a big, deep victim state in my life. And when I got home, I just thought to myself, you know what? I've been everywhere. I was seeing somebody 5 days a week. I'm going to heal myself. I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. So I just started by literally placing my hands on my back and breathing into that area and counting backwards because my mind was so negative. And as I was doing that, it occurred to me to say, well, if there is something higher, divine, help me. And I wasn't expecting anything because I'm super skeptical as a person, but I just felt this warmth move through my whole body. And as I had my eyes closed, I could see this golden light. And I remember thinking something's happening. And then this other thought occurred to me. What would happen if I could see inside my body? I don't know where it came from. But at that moment, it was as if someone was there and the switch went on and I could literally see my back. Like I had X-ray vision. And I got scared at the beginning, but then I started saying, why? But not from the victim for the first time, at that point in my life. I was like, I really want to know and understand. And so I was shown various visual images because I'm quite a visual person, I discovered, and memories of coming to Australia, not being able to speak the language, being bullied, having my parents being conflict with each other. Also going to schools where I just didn't feel any support. I was also one of those sponges where I took other people's pain or energy, and so I became aware of that. And my grandparents had gone through just horrific experiences during the war and never kind of worked through it or acknowledged it properly. And I realized that I was carrying all of that. And, my grandmother's loss of all her siblings was really kind of intertwined. And so I just cried. I felt through things. And I felt this real unwinding of my inner being, and I fell asleep. And the next day I woke up and I was like, oh my God, my back's not twisted. About 70% of back pain was gone. And I thought to myself, okay, there's something here and I actually need to explore. And so I spent the next few weeks not knowing what I was doing, but asking a lot of questions and breathing through things and feeling and changing my perspectives. And by the end, there was no back pain. My psoriasis disappeared, never came back. Neither of those came back. I felt like I could eat food properly again. And my anxiety was right down. And I thought to myself, oh my God, something's happened that is profound. I want to know more. I want to go and learn about it.
When you think about the process of the emotions being felt as you're discovering light at the end of the tunnel, as you're trying to process that, what's some of the things you start learning about yourself and also the possibility of change and hope? And because before, you had a doctor that was trying to tell you go home because of whatever reasons. But when you start to see new options and new chances, how are you starting to process that?
I felt like I was processing so many different things at the time. Firstly, it was to do with my family. So for my whole life up till, that time, I saw my grandparents as just absolute victims and, of what happened to them. And it was like, what's the point? What's the point? And all of a sudden, I changed my perception to they weren't victims. They were extremely courageous. And that changed how I felt then about myself, because I went, hold on a sec. When I was bullied at school, I just I became a lesser of a person in myself because I was just like, I don't feel comfortable in my skin. I don't know who I am. And then my perception kind of changed to what's the learning and the growing that these people have given me. And maybe it's that I can be very resilient, that I don't give up easily, that rather than, being kind of buried by this negativity, I am now finding my way out and I can help other people. And the same with the loss of the child. It was like, I want to learn more about what happens, I guess, what is spirituality, what actually happens in the spiritual world. So I took it as, here's an opportunity to really learn. And I've been learning ever since. I have hundreds and hundreds of books that I haven't bought in the last few years. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to change perspective, I realized that because I struggled and suffered, I was in a good position to help other people because I understood their pain. I wasn't coming from just, here's what I think. It was like, I've gone through this. I felt through it. I understand the depth of loss. I understand pain. And so I can be compassionate and I can hold this space. But I can also learn how to have boundaries, which I didn't have prior to that.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Inna Segal. It has a website. You can go to innasegal.com. My next question is about your book, best-selling book, The Secret Language of Your Body. What inspired you to, if you can put it this way, start to decode symptoms in such a way that was unique, tailor-made to your own story? And what were you hoping for your readers to take away from that project?
I felt like at the time when I started writing the book, there was a few books like Louise Hay's out there, and I thought they were amazing openings, like a doorway. But because I'm a person who needs a lot of detail and depth, I kind of felt like, especially as I started working with people as a practitioner, I was like, I need more. I need more understanding. And I also felt like I had this capacity that awakened, which was to really see into people's kind of bodies and energy fields and to identify links. And the more I did it, the more I could see the connections, even though I had been aware of Louise Hay's book. But it didn't really occur to me, to write a different one when I first got it, obviously. But the more I kept putting connections in, the more I kept going, actually, this, she did open the door and it's beautiful, but there's more. I need to write more. I need to share more with people. And I also felt like people needed processes, like they needed processes that came from different perspectives. So some were connected to visualization and breathing. Some were connected to how do we really change our thinking? Some, to pressure points and kind of more coming from the Chinese medicine perspective and, and maybe the chakras and colors. And so I went, how do I create a layered process that is simple enough for a child to do, like a 12-year-old child, let's say, but gives people all these different possibilities and perspectives and questions to go in and discover and ask themselves. And it started with me trying to give my clients processes and then saying, hey, after they came back, did you do your homework? Did you do the process? And then be like, And I would go, okay, I can tell you haven't. Why not? Oh, I lost it. And I thought to myself, oh my God, if I write a book, they will not have that excuse. So I want to write a book that has processes, that has kind of understanding of color, because color actually changes your emotions and is very easy to do and is so, quick in that sense. And so I was looking at how do we do deeper, longer processes, but also if I'm at work and I'm starting to feel a bit anxious, how do I calm my nervous system and what color would I use to do that? And how do I do that quickly? And then, I put processes about emotions again, because I actually realized that people didn't really understand them. And I have learned a lot since I read the book as well about how to work with emotions in a deeper way. But I also think that was an opening for people. It is an opening, especially if you're new to it, and then I also wrote about the systems of the body, and it was like, actually, the system is all the connected pieces of all the different parts of you and organs. And I want you to get a sense of that your body has so much wisdom and it's connected to your soul, and it actually wants you to learn. It's a learning experience, right? It is your teacher in so many ways.
When you think about tools of healing, there's different resources out there. People can literally Google something, but disclaimer, there's a time and place for everything. We need professional help, or you need to just keep looking until something works for your particular situation. Can you walk us through a simple exercise that you share with your clients that can probably help someone connect with not just the body, but in the beginning mode of healing from a emotional block?
Absolutely. I feel like the first step for most people, unless you've been doing this for a very long time, is to actually wake the body up. And the way you do that is very simply by standing up and starting with your right arm and hand. And you might go, where in my body do I feel discomfort? And let's say it's in my heart. So I place my hand on my heart and I just take a few really slow breaths in and out, ideally breathing through your nose and breathing out through your mouth with slightly pursed lips, because that already allows your nervous system to calm down. And then as you recognize something, like you might go, okay, I'm feeling tension and stress. And then it's almost like you take that tension and stress and then you shake your arm out for about 30 to 40 seconds as you're taking slow, deep breaths in and out. And then you stop and you take a moment and again, you breathe slowly and deeply and you sense the difference between the two sides of your body. And here's where you could add color. And so you might take a moment and you rub your hands together. And again, that awakens your whole body when you do that. And you visualize, so you do that for about 30 seconds, and then you place your hands slightly apart and you visualize green light. Or you feel the greenness. You've been in nature, you know what green feels like and looks like. And then you literally pour that color into your nervous system as you breathe in and out and just repeat the word calm. And then after about a minute of that, you do the same with the left arm. So, and hand, obviously, you place it maybe on the same part of the body, maybe a different part. Breathe into that part of the body, acknowledge, and then shake it for about 30 seconds to 40 seconds. And then again, rub your hands together, do the green light. So you can then do the same with both arms. Essentially, this exercise might take you between 5 and 7 minutes to do. But what it does is that it gets you to breathe differently. It gets you to move your body. It gets you to start to calm your nervous system, but also acknowledging what are my feelings and what are they about. So this is step one, we would say. But during the day, once you learn a little bit about color, like red gives you energy, blue calms you down, for example, you could literally be sitting at work and rub your hands together. It doesn't look weird. And then just kind of bring that color to your heart or to a part of your body that feels uncomfortable and take a minute to 2 minutes to breathe slowly and deeply to just calm yourself down, but also asking questions from your body. So once you've done something like this and you've awakened your body a little bit and you've calmed your nervous system, this is when you can go a little deeper and you can, let's say it's my stomach, I can bring my hands to my stomach. And the reason we do that is because it connects the nervous system and your brain to that part of your body and starts moving energy. And here you would go, if there was a thought or a belief that I was holding that was, making me stuck, because most sickness is about us being stuck in some perspective or in some way. What would it be? And is this helping me or hurting me? And, is this coming from me or have I picked this up from my environment? And then you might go further. Is this connected to a feeling? And what is the feeling? And what's the feeling underneath that? And then you might go, is this coming from now or is this coming from a story in the past? And if so, what could it be? And so you start to create these pieces that are connecting to what this is about, which then gives you choice, right? The choice is, can I change my perspective? So again, this is very basic beginning. And I do talk about this both in my book, The Secret Language of Your Body, and also on my website. I have a lot of free resources like master classes and a newsletter that I'm sending out with all sorts of ideas and processes and invitations to free masterclasses that I do live as well, where you can start to do these processes and be guided by me, but also start to understand and work on it yourself.
You also talk about timing of the soul, and with that perspective, someone who's listening and watching, they might have like a ton of questions, like, "Oh, I never heard this way before." But when you talk about timing of the soul, kind of unpack that for us, because with what you've learned with your own process and your own experience, how do you think of that in terms of pacing the healing versus forcing the healing?
Absolutely. Great question. Well, I believe in divine timing, and I believe that the body and the soul, because I feel like the soul embodies the body, actually knows timing, because what it understands is, the different layers, the many different layers. So in my industry, a lot of people go, just need to get to the root cause of things. And I don't actually believe in the root cause. I believe that there are seeds that have started early on in your life that are foundational, that get built and built and built into layers of ways of thinking, feeling, and experiencing life, and believing that this is how life is. And when you start really looking within in a layered way, you actually start to grow your sense of wise self, let's call it. And you recognize that you cannot push or force or rush something, because your inner being is intelligent, and whatever is being held there that you are not aware of is being held there for a reason. And the reason is that you weren't ready to deal with it when it showed up. You didn't know how to. And maybe there's layers of trauma, and you need to be strong enough and wise enough to connect to that particular layer and transform it. And that transformation will open up something else and something else for you, not just to heal your body, but to actually expand and grow as a soul spirit being. And when you do that, your life changes completely. And so you cannot put a Band-Aid on, you cannot trick your soul, because it has that intelligence, and it will not let go, and your body will not let go of a disease if you haven't gone through all the layers and all the learning, essentially, that your soul has come here to learn and to grow. And sometimes that learning is difficult because it's to do with your relationships and making changes in your relationships, or in where you live, in your environment. So it's not always just internal, it could be external, that you actually have to face people, you have to have deep conversations, you have to learn to treat yourself better, and and teach others how to treat you, how you want to be treated.
And we say, I know we're getting close on time, but when you say treat yourself better, you say that and a movie goes off in my head, because I think about all the people I interview on the show. And I always try to emphasize, a lot of times there's a common thread, any person I talk to on the show. And that is, whenever they hit that certain point in their life where it was like, okay, beyond this moment, this point of time, either do or die. Either I stand on 10 toes and rise to the occasion, or I stay down and whatever it is. In other words, settle. When you think about what you had to experience in your life to get you to this point where you're teaching people and giving them your resources, how much of it is outer conflict versus the inner battle?
I honestly think it's both in lots of ways. I feel like our experiences on the outside, like my experience with being bullied when I was younger, I also obviously don't have time to go deep into it, but I was married to a narcissist, and how he treated me, what he did, my lack of understanding of it was really difficult. And it may seem like it's coming from the outside, or I could have said, well, I had this baby, died, what did I do? Or did I do something? And, as you recognize that there are things that happen on the outside that you may not have any control of, you then start going inside and going, what is it that I can change? My perspective, how I treat myself, as I said, how I wake up every day, I can change that, right? How I perceive a situation, how quickly can I turn something around and find the positive in it and something that's strengthening? What is my practice? Like, what is my daily practice to keep me strong instead of falling to pieces? So all of those things are so vitally important. But at times, I've had to go, I actually have to go to Europe because I need to heal there, or I need to move, cities because I really feel like I need to heal there. So I feel like it's still internally guided because it's an internal, I guess, intuition, knowingness that we need to change. And I'll conclude it with that, with a thinking, a feeling, but also a will, meaning what is it that we actually need to do to change in our lives? So I always believe it's those three that need to be combined.
I want to tie to the thought you said earlier in the show about the homework. The guy not doing his part, and you kind of caught the hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. And it's like, well, you're not going to do the inner work. I can say all the amazing quotes in the world, but it's not going to really have any positive output on your end. So I want to tie that to this thought, and that is people live their lives. And until we actually start to understand ourselves and take the time to start to understand ourselves, we truly won't ever realize where we really are and where we could go. And a lot of times, like you said, when you mentioned that point of going to Europe, we do have to go seek help, or we have to do things, connect with the right organization, the right people that can kind of educate us. Because, right, if we're humble enough to eat the humble pie and say, hey, I kind of lack the skill sets in this area. So if I have someone who's professional, I can use my discernment, but I can also trust that they have the good intentions to check my blind spots and educate me in those places. So landing an airplane is basically, it is a balance of both understanding, okay, this is what's going on in this world, but I'm responsible of how I react. I'm responsible how I get up in the morning. I'm responsible how I drive my car. Am I weaving out in the lanes like a maniac, or am I calm and chill and doing what I'm supposed to do naturally as a driver? The responsibility is. And it's a funny jokes there, depending where you live. But I love your discussion because it ties directly to your story of what you had to go through and your determination, I will put it, to find what can work for you. And I believe that's why people, when they listen to the show, they appreciate guests like you, because you break it down to what you had to go through and survive.
Yeah.
And you came out with some tools for others to use. And that's what's great about this show. So I want to say to you, appreciate that. How can people stay in touch with you and your work if they are interested in following what you're doing?
The best way is to go to my website, innasegal.com, and also actually just signing up for my newsletter, because I just share so much as well in the newsletter. And we have a lot of free events and masterclasses and live ones. We have recorded ones that you can already find on the website, and just watch it. Give yourself, like you were saying, give yourself some time. Really give yourself some time. And that it starts with time. It starts with slowing down and honoring yourself and going, let me discover why I'm here, what I'm here about, what is my soul's journey. And, I can talk on these topics for, weeks and break so many things down. But just starting, taking those few hours and going, I'm going to give a gift to myself, right? Because it is about me. If I'm my best, then my children can be my best, my partner, my life, my work, everything. But if I'm falling to pieces and pretending that everything's fine, then it's going to be a challenge. So again, there's so many resources, and innasegal.com. Please connect. And also I'm on social media and so on. And, the idea for me is to inspire as many people as I can to turn within and to learn that you do have the power to transform your health, but really your life.
Appreciate those words. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you connect with Inna Segal. And like always, we tell our guests, want to say thank you for your time today.